I hope you're well. Today I just wanted to film this video on how to organize your life. I know there's a lot of advice on how to organize your life on YouTube and on blogs, and I'm hoping to share a few of the less obvious things with you today. I was watching a video on this very topic on Estee Lalonde's YouTube channel. I love her. And I just thought I would share my thoughts on how to stay organized and really try and share a few that aren't spoken about as often. So I've written a few points down. If you don't already know, I don't edit these videos, partly because I don't want my perfectionism to take over and stop me from actually learning and putting these videos up, and partly because I also want it to be like we're just actually chatting in real life, and I wouldn't be editing if that was the case. So that's just in case you see me looking down at this notebook, that's why I'm not editing that stuff out, so it's all real. So I think that when it comes to organizing our lives and keeping everything together, we can get a little too focused on how things appear. Like, I know having everything appearing organized looks great, but I'm really talking more so about how to create that feeling of being organized. Do you know what I mean? Like, how good do you feel when you feel organized, rather than having your life technically organized but you don't have that feeling there. So I'm focusing on how to get the feeling of organization in your life, because from that, if you feel organized, you feel productive and shit just goes better. So I'm just going to move this fan. I moved it away because it always tickles my hair on my face, but now I'm getting really hot. I just also had this really hot chicken chorizo thing for lunch. I really underestimated the spice. So if I have a lot of water, that's why. So yeah, don't mind me. Oop. Okay, so I will share, though, to start, one thing that has really helped me with feeling organized is the book The Life-Changing Magic of Cleaning Up, Tidying Up, by Marie Kondo. I should have looked that up before I started filming. I think it's Marie. She is a Japanese professional organizer, tidier, and I'm sure you've heard about that book before. I know it was really popular last year, 2016. I read it and I started working through it, and I went through my cupboard. She really, I love it because there's so much structure. So she talks about starting with clothes and then going through in categories rather than by room or just removing things. It's getting everything in one place, seeing it all as a sum total, and then only keeping the things you love. She says that spark joy or something, but I don't know, the word joy just doesn't mean anything to me. Does that make sense? Like, when I hear the word joy, I'm like, what is that? But I just say like the things that you really love. So I did that, and I still fold my clothes the way that she suggests. So I would show you my drawer, but there's a lot of shit in between. Okay, this is all nice and clean. This is what half my room looks like. This is the other half. Like, I mean, it's not that bad, but you know, there's a little bit between me and that drawer. But I have everything sitting up. So she talks about how you don't stack. Sorry, I'm not going to move this again. You don't, like, it's not good to stack clothes on top of each other like that, because, you know, that's great for merchandising in a store. But when every item's different, if you have it folded so it can sit up, and you can actually fold anything so it can sit up by itself, you just kind of, there's a YouTube video on that, look that up. But I love having that, and just following the stuff that I learned from that has really helped me. I never made it through the whole book. I just read a portion and applied it, and read a portion and applied it. So I think I only did the clothes and then books. So I said I wasn't going to move this again, but now I want to show you my books. Oh my God, this plant, I'm so bad at watering it. Don't mind it, it looks completely dead. That's like literally all the books I own, except for the ones that are holding this laptop up. But yeah, I went through all my books as well, and I can't remember what the other categories are. I think one of them's paperwork. I did paperwork too, but I didn't really have that much. And the last one's sentimental items, and I've actually been quite good with getting rid of that stuff, in the sense that, like, if there was a painting I did when I was young, I just took a photo of it and threw it out. I know that might sound heartless, but was never going to hang it up anywhere, and I feel like I'd rather have a nice photo of it. I'm going to put all the photos of things like that together in an album. I'd rather have that than have the physical thing and carry it from house to house, and I know I'm never going to hang it up, and the most I'll get from it is like 3 seconds being like, oh, remember the days, and put it back. I'd rather just not have it. I know everyone has different opinions with that. That's mine. I'm just going to check this is recording. Okay. So that book has really helped me in terms of organization, and helped me remove a lot of things that I was spending a lot of time tidying up, and to just remove it creates so much freedom, such a liberating feeling, and then it saves you so much time because you're not constantly organizing stuff you never use, or that you look at and you're like, oh, like I really wish that wasn't there. So that's just a side note. But the other things I'm going to talk about are really just how to create that feeling of organization in your life. It can be really simple, and I'm sure you can do a few of these things today. So the first, I'm just looking at my notes, is to figure out what makes you feel organized and like your life is together. So another way to think of it is what really, when your life feels really messy, like what creates that messy feeling. So for me, there's a few things that keep me feeling organized and not feeling messy. One, it sounds so simple, but painted nails. If my nails are really gross, I just feel like, I don't know, like I just like having nice painted nails, and then it kind of feels like, if I've made the effort to do that, other things are going well. So that's one of my things. I love having nice nails. If I leave it, like, it really wears on me. If I leave it, just having to look at my hands all the time, especially I spend a lot of time sitting at the computer, so I'm seeing my hands a lot. I don't know if this sounds weird, but I love having fresh nails, and that's an easy way that I create that organized feeling in my life. Another way is having meal prep. When I have done my meal prep and I'm getting it out of the fridge or freezer every day, I feel so organized. Like it takes a couple of hours I do it usually Sunday afternoon, and Steve's been so good. He is way better at cooking than me, and if he's around and not at work, he will help me cook. So he's a catch. So yeah, having my meal prep is also another way that I feel organized. Let me think what else. That dead plant I showed you, when it's dead, that stops me. Like, it's just like a constant reminder, like, oh, you're not even organized enough to water a plant. I did water it this morning, and like that plant is cool in that if I water it, like later that day, it'll look brand new. So just a little thing like that, like having, and that's the same, I guess, having mess around is a way to make us feel disorganized / not organized. And we are just trying to identify a few things, and the simpler the better. I love all those videos on going through your whole wardrobe, and I did love that book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, but I think there are simple ways that in the meantime you can really create that feeling of organization. So like for me, if I've got painted nails, my plants are all looking okay, and like, a huge one for me, if I am too lazy to put my washing away. So if I have it just sitting in the washing basket all week and every day I have to pick my stuff out of it, that makes me just feel so like my life just feels like it's a mess. And it's funny how long I can go, even though my life feels like a mess. It takes, I think I timed it the other day, it takes like 15 minutes to put my washing away, and I usually put on a YouTube video anyway. So it's not like it's that hard, but if I don't make the effort to do it, it just drains me all week and gives me this feeling of like, ooh, your life's a mess. So putting away my washing as soon as it's done, that reminds me I have to do my washing today. So I think just identifying a few things for yourself. It could be if you have a good to-do list. On the topic of to-do lists, I don't recommend having extremely long, elaborate to-do lists. If you're a perfectionist like me, you will want to make it perfect and cram everything in every possible second and make it be absolutely amazing. But I can find that if I have a to-do list with a lot of unchecked items, especially if they end up staying there for a while, that makes me feel really disorganized. So I feel the shorter the better. 2 or 3 things tops that you're going to achieve, and then if you get to the end of that list, you can write another one. So yeah, just little things like that. Doing meal prep. What else is really good? Yeah, like I know there's so many videos with how to use a planner and all that kind of thing, but I really want to talk about just a few little things that you can do to give you that feeling, and definitely still look at all that, and you can definitely, you know, if you want to improve those things as well, you can. But I think it is so important to just create that feeling and to try and find really simple ways to create it. So if you are having a really messy week and everything's feeling really disorganized, you can do those 2 or 3 little things that give you that feeling of organization back. So the other thing I've written down, and I know I probably harp on about this a little bit, but it's so important, so that's why I do it. The power of making a plan and following through with it. Like, it's all well and good to like how to stay organized, look at all this planner and plan out everything, and planning is a part of organization, but I think an even more important and not even spoken about part of it is the follow through. And so many of us lack it, and we just haven't practiced being accountable to ourselves and building that trust with ourselves, meaning that, like, how amazing is it when you can trust yourself to follow through with any plan that you create? Like, that's just such a good feeling, knowing if I set my alarm for 6 a.m, I'm waking up at 6 a.m. If I said I'm going to the gym after work, I go to the gym after work. Life feels amazing when you just stick to the plan that you create for yourself. It's just, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, if you had a friend and you were always changing plans on them and always wiggling your way out, you know, you probably wouldn't hang around with that friend, or they probably wouldn't hang around with you very long, because they're like, oh, you're so unreliable. But we do that to ourselves all the time because it feels good in the moment to just have that instant gratification of not having to make a decision and not having to do things when we don't feel like it. But I think it's huge to learn how to follow through with a plan. And I think it's not spoken about enough how important it is to learn that, because you can do all the planning in the world, you can have the most perfect to-do list. I think bullet journals, if you don't know what that is, it's essentially like a super I have never had one, because I know it'll kind of stop me from moving forward because of my perfectionism stuff. But it's essentially like you make a really pretty journal, and they're beautiful. A lot of like the person who has it does all the drawings and just it's basically making a beautiful to-do list and beautiful plans. But I think a lot of perfectionists really get stuck in that planning, because planning feels productive And it is, as long as you don't overdo it and you follow through with the plan. But often, and something like a bullet journal can really facilitate getting stuck in that. So we put all our energy into the planning and to making that plan as perfect and as perfect looking as we possibly can, but then we never do it. Or even a bullet journal, like I know people have started them and then they don't know if they can even keep creating such beautiful to-do lists and plans that even stops them from creating the to-do list. Does that make sense? So I know bullet journals are loved by a lot of people, and I honestly haven't tried it, mainly because like this book I have is super messy. Like if anyone has a bullet journal, I see this, they'd be like, ugh. But by keeping it messy, it means I can just write as I think about things, and I don't get stopped by, oh, I wrote the wrong word, like I did this, and then like just cross it out. Like that keeps me moving forward. So planning's great, but I really think, oh, I should turn my emails off. I really think that we can get stuck there, and that it equally, if not more important, is follow through. So if you don't know yet how to follow through with all your plans, it's really just practice. And I know this sounds so simple, but I haven't seen really anything about how to follow through with plans. So much about planning, so little about follow through, which is why I want to talk about it. And it's just a skill. You can start by making super simple plans, and part of planning is making decisions, which is amazing because indecision is so incredibly draining. If we, like, I know people think they want to have this flexible life where they can do anything they want at any time, and you can, but for me it's incredibly draining because I have to make so many decisions, and that means as the day goes on I make worse decisions because there's a thing called decision fatigue, which is essentially you have a limited amount of good decision making power per day, just like your brain's capacity to make good decisions. And if you use all of that up on decisions that you don't need to be making, like you just, so then instead of after dinner of not having dessert and reading your book, you eat a whole block of chocolate and you sit in front of the TV. Like it's that kind of thing. You, at the end of the day, some might call that willpower, like your willpower is diminished, your decision making skills are lesser because you have wasted that energy on unimportant decisions. So why a lot of people talk about with having a morning routine, which is also an amazing way to feel organized, having as few decisions as possible in that routine, having everything in a set order. It's why a lot of successful people wear the same thing every day, or they at least pick it out the night before so they don't have to make that decision in the morning. I'm sure you've done it. I've definitely done it, where you spend about half an hour trying everything on and you end up usually choosing what you tried on first, and just that draining feeling of like, oh, I've just spent half an hour being like, oh, like in that indecision. So draining. So learning how to follow through with your plans, so important for having an organized life, and I really wish there was a lot more on it, but it comes from practicing, from making a little decision such as I'm going to brush my teeth at 9 p.m. when you might normally brush it around that time, but you're like, when it hits 9 I'm getting up and brushing my teeth. Then it hits 9 and you get up and do it. It's really as simple as that, just practicing making a decision and then following through with it regardless of whether you feel like it when the time comes. So not, oh well, I'll do it, you know, I'm just in the middle of this YouTube video, I will do it after it's done. That's not follow through. Though of course it's better than never doing it at all, but really being strict with yourself, not from a, you know, not in a bad disciplinary way, but as a like love yourself, I'm going to be that reliable friend to myself. I said I'd brush my teeth at 9. I'm going to brush my teeth at 9. It's so simple, but unfortunately we're not really taught it, and we're taught more to rely on whether we feel like it. So that's just my thoughts on that. Also wrote something else. Oh yeah, removing stuff from your life. So I think one of the easiest ways to organize your life is by removing the unnecessary and unimportant. Everyone has different opinions on this kind of thing. I know some people have the view that like they hate throwing things out, and if you're the kind of person that you hate leaving any food uneaten, and you hate like getting rid of any clothes or anything, that'd be something interesting to look into. Like, it is quite a scarcity fear mindset that you don't think there's going to be any more, so you need to hold on to everything you have. But I will leave that to the side. Just thinking about what you can remove. It doesn't have to be physical objects, though that's always good, but it can be just removing something from your to-do list that really isn't that important, or removing a bad habit, meaning a habit that you find draining. So for me, one that I'm working on at the moment is social media. It's so draining to me. I know I am saying this on a social media platform, being YouTube, but just particularly Instagram, I find it so draining. Even though I follow people that post very inspiring things, I never feel inspired. I think it's that active passively, just being so passive and just scrolling, and it's that whole FOMO thing. And when I don't check it, I'm never like, oh my god, I can't believe I missed that, ever. Like, I can't believe I didn't get to see that when it was posted. It's just such a instant gratification thing, and I think it's a way that we procrastinate, because it's so easy. Just if you have a second of a bad feeling, so maybe you feel bored, challenged, stupid, like say if you're studying and you've got your phone there, or like if I'm writing a blog post, I'm like, I don't know what to write, I'll just pick up my phone as a reflex, because it lets me escape that emotion for a little while. So that is something I'm working on removing from my life. There's an app called Moment that I really love. It just runs in the background, and it just keeps track of how much time you spend on your phone, and you can set it to remind you when you've been on your phone too much, or whatever your definition of too much. But I just like looking at it and knowing that it's there, because when I've had a day that I'm like, oh, I didn't really achieve anything and I feel really disorganized, it's because I've spent so much time on my phone. Like, I mean, causation, I would say causation. Like, I just spent a lot of the day being really passive, being really, like, not being true to my word with myself. So I've put off things, I haven't done them when I've planned to do them, I've procrastinated. So that's just one of the other ways that I would say I organize my life, is by trying to remove things. It isn't always about adding, and I think removing something, either from your to-do list, something physical, a habit, is really, really powerful and such a great place to start. And I think if you remove it, and then you can add other things back in, but if we just try to add to our current life, that's when things can get messy, and that's when we end up feeling like, oh, I'm too busy to go to the gym. Well, if you didn't spend 3 hours on Instagram every day, you wouldn't feel like you're too busy. But on that note, often we fill our time with unimportant things like Instagram, so that we have the too busy excuse for the gym, because we're worried that if we go to the gym, we'll do our workout and we won't get the results we want, and then we'll feel bad. But that's a whole other in-depth thing as well. So I will talk about that at another point in time, but that's just my tips on how to stay organized, how to organize your life. There's a lot of great videos on YouTube with other practical tips about planners and labeling's so good, but I'm talking about how to create that feeling of organization, how to create it quite quickly, especially in those weeks. What is happening to my voice? Oh. I hope I'm not getting sick. Especially in those weeks that really feel messy. We all have them. What are a couple of things that can really pull you out of that? Try and have a think about what are a few things that every time you do them, you're like, yes, I'm getting my life together. For me, nails, so easy. I love painting my nails. I just put a YouTube video on and sit here and paint them, and I find it quite therapeutic, the painting of the nails. I feel like it's the same as like coloring and that kind of thing. So what are a few ways to create that feeling of organization and make them as easy as possible and as enjoyable as possible, like the equivalent of painting your nails, or meal prep. That one for me is huge. If I haven't done meal prep, I pay for it all week, just from that feeling of like, oh, what am I going to eat? So I'm feeling drained because I have to make so many more decisions. And I have to, like, when I have meal prep, I'm like, yes. Like, I give myself a little pat on the back, and it really sets that tone of like, you are looking after yourself, and that creates momentum. So yeah, figure out 2 or 3 things that give you a feeling of being organized, and have them handy, especially for those weeks where your life just feels like it's fallen to shit, and make the time to do them. Learn how to follow through with your plans. Planning is so important, but equally as important and barely ever spoken about is following through with those plans. That is how you stay organized. You follow through with plans. So create a few little plans for yourself and follow through with them. Make them as easy as possible in the beginning, and just build that practice of, I make a plan, I follow it. I make a plan, I follow it. Like if you were making that plan with a friend, be your own friend. I know everyone talks about having accountability buddies. Oh, girl. I know everyone talks about accountability buddies, and I never really recommend it. I don't know if that's just because I haven't had great experiences. I mean, I have had some great ones, but I find often in the accountability buddy situation, that just lends itself to excuse making, in the sense that usually there's one person that relies more heavily on the other. I know there are really good accountability buddy situations, but often it's one relying on the other, and they'll ask permission not to do it. So particularly with the gym, like for the first few weeks when you're motivated, it's not a problem, but then once it gets a bit trickier, and then it's like, oh, can we please skip today? And then trying to persuade the other person that they should skip it too. Like, it can really go accountability in the wrong direction. So I just prefer to focus on being accountable to myself and be that accountability buddy for myself. Also, I find that if you end up in an accountability buddy situation and you're the person that is more accountable, like you're the motivator, then that person, the other person, can often kind of come to resent you because you're trying to help them stick to their plans, but they don't want to, and they see you as a person that's stopping them from getting that instant gratification. So I don't know, I've never had any horrible situations, but I've just found myself in accountability buddy situations, particularly around working out. A few times where I was like, I'd rather just be accountable to myself. I love working out with people. I think I only do one workout a week by myself. Everything else is either in a group class, one's with my personal trainer, and yeah, I just love working out with other people, but that doesn't mean I need to rely on them for the discipline. I rely on myself for that. So it's another thing. It's a skill. You can learn it. Start small, start easy. Something that just make a time to do something you're going to do anyway. So I don't recommend, I mean, it's great to start it with a new habit, but brushing your teeth, eating dinner, stuff you're going to do every day anyway, just set an actual time and then follow through with it regardless of whether you feel like it. And what else did I write? Or what can you remove? Either something from your to-do list, a bad habit or a draining habit, something that's sucking your time, or what was I going to say? Physical item, to-do list item, or bad habit. They're just my tips. I hope you find them helpful. I really think it is important to focus on the feeling of organization more so than physically how things are organized, but they obviously sort of feed off each other, and the more organized you feel, the more organized you will be. But just want to share my view on it because I haven't heard many people talking about the stuff that I've shared with you today. If you know of someone who talks about this stuff, please in the comments share them with me because I love this stuff, as you can probably tell. So that's it for now. I will talk to you again soon. Bye.